Alrighty. Well, to touch again on the spiritual warfare element of the things that are going on these days. There's a dragonfly. I don't know if you can see it or not. There it is. Oh, it just went away. Um, anyway, to touch again on the spiritual warfare angle to all this stuff that's happening in the world today, and just looking back and drawing parallels between what's happening now and what has happened throughout history. Well, we're seeing wherever diabolical forces are at work or have been at work, there's some common elements that we can there's some common elements that we can look at. Those are sexual debauchery, the sacrifice of children, and the abuse of mind-altering substances. All of these things become common and they take on different forms depending on the era in which they occur, but they're all pretty much the same in a way. They're all caused by diabolical spiritual forces, by demonic spiritual forces. The other thing that happens is there's a cheapening of life, where you don't have God and where you have demonic forces coming in. You have a cheapening of human life that occurs. And we're seeing all that now. Of course, if you go back to ancient Rome, the Romans used to make a show of it. They used to feed people to the lions. They used to force gladiators to fight each other to the death. You know, all that stuff, all for entertainment. Death became entertainment in that society. In Nazi Germany, of course, they had the concentration camps. If we go back to some of the ancient religions, going back again in history, I just jumped ahead earlier than I should have, I think, but let's go back just for a moment. We had gods like Baal. Baal required the people to sacrifice their children to him. Baal was a demonic god. We're now seeing the re-emergence of Baal and of Baal worship. In fact, the gates to the temple of Baal have been reconstructed, and they were sent all around the world on a tour not too long ago. They were put on display in various cities and whatnot. The aberrations that took place at that temple were just unspeakable. Children were burned alive, actually burned to death. Living children were burnt alive to death in that temple. That's how bad it was. Now moving ahead again to where I just was, to Nazi Germany, the Holocaust, it didn't start out with concentration camps and trainloads of people and so on, boxcars and all that. It started out with nurses bringing handicapped children on school buses to a place where they were given a lethal injection and then their bodies were incinerated. There was a fleet of gray school buses that actually brought the handicapped children to this place where they were put down, where they were killed. That's child sacrifice. That's what that is, Now in Canada, where I'm from, we have a euthanasia program now. It's called MAID, Medical Assistance in Dying. And there's even, basically, you don't have to be in agony and beyond hope to avail yourself of this program. If you just find that life is difficult and you don't want to live it anymore, you can apply to be put down by the medical profession now, and you have a wait of about 2 weeks to do that. Now, if you need a hip replacement or a knee replacement or anything like that, 2 years easily. You'll wait 2 years. It'd be nothing to wait 2 years. They put you on the list, and 2 years later. And even then, unless you've taken the shots, the thing in the arm, unless you've taken that, they won't operate on you. The same for organ transplants and things. There's a long waiting list, and when your name comes up on it, if you haven't taken those shots, you're not getting your surgery. Anyway, going back to Nazi Germany, it actually started with the wholesale murder of handicapped children. That's where the Holocaust started, and it expanded from there. Life was very cheap in Nazi Germany. Life was very cheap in ancient Rome. And as the society got closer in ancient Rome, as the society got closer to full collapse, life became even cheaper. And anyway, we see this in ancient societies. We see it in more recent societies. We see it in the Eastern Bloc communist countries of the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Terrible things happened in those places. And we're seeing it now in our own backyards, on our own doorsteps, in our own houses of parliament. We're seeing our medical people. Many of them are complicit in it. Just like in Nazi Germany, many of the medical people were complicit in it. There are so many parallels we can draw. Now, with sexual immorality, in many of the ancient religions which were demonic, they had temple prostitutes. And those prostitutes would get pregnant on a regular basis. And those babies that were born to them were also sacrificed to the gods. They were used as living sacrifices. So there you have sexual depravity, and you also have, the devaluing of life and the taking of innocent life, the taking of the lives of children. In our modern society, we're not quite at the point yet where we're putting babies on the altar. At least the average person isn't. I wonder sometimes about these people who are high up in the whole thing. The average person isn't doing that, but, our children are being turned over to reprobate minds and to sexual depravity. They're being sexualized in many ways. They're being told about things that young children don't need to be told about. They're being given information that young children, there's no reason for a young child to know these things. It's a taking away of their innocence is what it is, And that is a form of sacrifice, because if you take away a child's innocence, well then, in a way you are sacrificing the child, even if the child lives. The child doesn't have to die to be sacrificed. You can take away the childhood by taking away the innocence. And in a way, that is sacrificing a child. Also, if we look at the use of substances, of mind-altering substances, this is another thing that's on the increase in our society. In Canada now, we have a government that's openly talking about legalizing all street drugs. Crack and meth and everything, cocaine, they want to legalize it all. But at the same time, they're passing laws. They've already legalized cannabis, and they're in the process of legalizing mushrooms. I don't know if they've done it yet, but they're in the process. If they haven't, they're in the process now. Yet they're passing all kinds of laws so they can put you in jail if you criticize them or if you speak against their policies. If you refuse to take on a woke, I don't know how you'd put it really, a woke mindset, I guess. If you refuse to do that, if you still cling to the old ways, which are considered backward now, if you still have a loyalty to God, and you still have a desire to do right in the eyes of God, and so on, and I mean the God of the Bible, not so much the God of this world, who we know is Lucifer, but the God of the Bible. if you, the God of heaven, if you want to do His will, if you have that desire, you're really in danger in this society. In many places around the world now, Christians are being jailed for quoting scripture, for silently praying in certain locations, like near to abortion clinics and stuff. People are going to jail for expressing dissatisfaction with governments and with government policy, with the ruling class, and so on. And so this is happening now. It's happening in the United States. They just recently sentenced a man to jail because he said "death to tyranny" in a social media post. Now, he didn't threaten anybody. He didn't say he was going to hurt anybody. He didn't say he was going to bring death upon anybody. All he said was "death to tyranny," and that earned him a jail sentence. Well, I mean, who in their right mind could possibly support tyranny? I think anybody in their right mind would wish death upon tyranny. You'd have to be crazy not to. But yet that'll get you locked up now. Now, if he had said a specific person, if he had said a name of somebody, or if he had said, "I am going to cause death to come to this person," or that'd be a different thing. Then that would be uttering a threat. That'd be a jailable thing. In any period of time and in any place, that'd be a jailable thing. But only in an unreasonable society, and only in a mentally